Okay, today I'm going to talk about the anterior corticospinal tract, and the fibers of the anterior corticospinal tract will originate from the precentral gyrus of the frontal lobe. Unlike the lateral corticospinal tract, the fibers of the anterior one do not cross over the pyramidal decussation in the medulla oblongata, and they descend within the anterior funiculus of the spinal cord, and it will run alongside the anterior median fissure. And as they travel down the spinal cord, these fibers will gradually cross the midline in series of steps and will terminate on the anterior horn cells of the opposite side. It's important to understand that this tract does not extend below the level of the mid-thoracic region. Now, let me just complete this illustration here. Here we have the spinal cord. Anterior fissure. Here we have the anterior corticospinal tract. Different fibers of the anterior corticospinal tract. And the fibers will cross the midline. The red one is representing the midline of the spinal cord. Fibers crossing the midline. Okay, and here we have the anterior corticospinal tract. And here, this part here is the anterior horn. Let me just finish this one. Okay, this one is the anterior horn. Anterior horn. Let me just complete this illustration, and then I'm going to talk about the rest. Okay, so the anterior corticospinal tract is responsible for which function? Control voluntary motor functions, and particularly in the upper limbs and trunk. There is something that makes this tract distinct from the lateral corticospinal tract. And what is it? The fibers will not cross over the pyramidal decussation, but they will instead cross laterally within the spinal cord. Usually, when this tract is damaged, the patient might present ipsilateral weakness, which means that the affected side corresponds to the side of the lesion. For example, an injury of the anterior corticospinal tract on the left side of the spinal cord will lead to weakness on the left side of the body. Here we have the fibers crossing the midline in the spinal cord. This gradual crossing of the fibers within the spinal cord is, let's say, is a unique feature of the anterior corticospinal tract. And this pattern of crossing helps differentiate it from the other motor pathways. Lesions affecting this part of the tract can disrupt fine motor control and coordination, and as the anterior corticospinal tract plays an important role in precise movements. Now, this part here is corresponding to the anterior horn cells, okay, and the anterior horn cells are lower motor neurons located in the ventral horn of the spinal cord, and they will receive input from upper motor neurons, including those from the anterior corticospinal tract, and directly innervate skeletal muscles. Okay, damage to anterior horn cells usually leads to flaccid paralysis, which is when the muscle is weak, decrease when the muscle decrease the tone, and also when there is loss of reflexes. Conditions such as polymyelitis and amyotrophic lateral sclerosis can affect these cells, and which will lead to significant motor deficits. And yeah, let me just finish this part here. And very short video today. The anterior corticospinal tract, let me just write here, anterior corticospinal tract, just to sum up, okay, is an important and specialized motor pathway that originates from the precentral gyrus and descends through the anterior funiculus of the spinal cord. It has a unique pattern of lateral crossing within the spinal cord that distinguishes this path from other motor tracts. And why it's so important to understand the pathway of the anterior corticospinal tract. Understanding its anatomy and especially the clinical implications will help in diagnosis and manage the conditions affecting these areas, and particularly those that involves the upper limbs and trunk. So this is the topic of today, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share, and leave a comment below. Thank you.